Welcome to the Bringing Intimacy Back show, where intimacy is real. If you desire to intimately connect with yourself, your significant other, children, family, friends, community, and higher power, this show is for you. We explore intimate topics, inspiring life stories, spirituality, and insightful tips on strengthening relationships. The show is hosted by Dr. April and her co-host, Coach K. Let's get this episode of the Bringing Intimacy Back show started. We share with you today the secret power to intimacy to create a life you love or love the life you create. Now, here's your host, Dr. April, and co-host Coach K.
Hey, welcome to the Bringing Intimacy Back show. How are you doing?
I am doing amazing. And how about yourself?
Good. It's been such a busy week. So
it has. This today has just snuck up too quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And here in the Bringing Intimacy Back show, many times people ask about what intimacy is. And really one of the things is being present. And so I'm so happy that we have this show where I can bring myself back to the present moment.
Oh, yeah. Every single time, and reminding others.
Right. Because when you're present, it really even helps in the sense of mental health, in the sense of anxiety and depression, and that when you're fully in your present moment.
Yeah, because you're then paying attention to you versus everything and everyone else.
Yes. And so this month, one of our nonprofits that we're highlighting is activeminds.org, which helps young adults who are 16 to 24, 14 to 25 with their mental health in the sense of providing resources, sources, information, education, and advocacy. So check out www.activeminds.org.
I'm going to have to look that up for my active-minded teen.
So, how has your intimacy been this week?
It's been pretty intense. I had to get back to being intimate with myself this week. It was one of those like, girl, get yourself together, because I was giving too much of me away to my husband, and I had to get myself together and be like, hold on now, let's back it up. And I had to take a step back and have a talk with him and let him know, hey, I was giving you too much. I was trying to be proactive for you, that I was leaving me behind. And he totally understands, because every once in a while you have to be able, especially in a relationship, in a marriage, be able to recognize when you stretched yourself too thin and that you've given too much. My cup was just about empty. And I was like, whoa, let me take it a step back. Which is why I love that me and my husband, we have such an open back and forth communication about our growth, because we know we're still individuals who made a commitment to come together to be in this committed union. So it was amazing. And it's every single time we have these reset moments, it's just amazing.
Yes, thank you for sharing that, because I think a lot of us females, we give so much and we don't know our own boundaries, and we're empty.
Yeah.
And then we try to please everyone, and even in the sense of the sexual aspects. And then it just really takes away that passion, that connection.
Yeah. I'm happy that I've learned to listen to me, because I know when I'm getting to that place, and I know what it shows up as when I am over that place. And I don't want that, especially with the children being older. I want to always show up as the best version of me. So when I know I'm getting to a place where I'm no longer me, I always do that reset.
Yes. And like you said, you listening to yourself.
Yeah.
Which is critical. And then being an advocate for yourself.
Yeah, that part is the key.
Yes, which is difficult and hard, but it affects intimacy in so many different ways.
Yes.
Yes, yeah. And what I'm so excited about today's show is because we are talking about different ways. In fact, our guest today, which we've had on before, I'm so excited to have Traci on. She's going to talk about the 7 different realms of relational intimacy.
I'm excited about that. I'm super excited about that.
Yes, yes. So if you're out there listening and you're maybe struggling in a marriage or even struggling with yourself, stay tuned. We're going to have an expert, and she's been on our show again. Her name is Traci Owen, and she's going to talk about relational intimacy in 7 different ways. We'll be back in a moment.
Are you in a relationship with someone that you see often, but you feel so disconnected with them? Bringing intimacy back can help you bring the intimacy back to your relationship. BIB is dedicated to inspire, enlighten, and encourage intimate connections. Live shows, weekly guest speakers with over 29,000 downloads. We can help promote your products and services, grow your business and clientele with BIB. Want to become part of the BIB family? You can now sponsor with us.
Welcome back to the Being Intimacy Show, where intimacy is real. Welcome, Traci. How are you doing?
Hey, Traci.
Well, I was feeling pretty good when we got started, but then Coach K started talking, and all of a sudden I started feeling a little convicted in my own intimacy with myself, because I have been given it out. And so, just like you guys were talking, I'm sitting here like, amen, yes, girl. Because that intimacy with ourselves is just as important as the intimacy with the other people we share in our life. And as women, I don't think we are given too much of that permission, because, we're supposed to be bringing home the bacon, frying it up in the pan, and never letting you forget you're a man, right?
Yes.
And I am not the best version of myself. So today, even though I came, right, this is the power of conversation. Even though I came as a speaker, I also came away receiving. So it's that push and pull, which is what intimacy truly is, right? It's being a giver and being a receiver, and both need to be done with a little bit of grace. So I'm thankful for that call today into my brain, Miss Kay.
Yes, definitely. And you know what? I was just thinking, and maybe we should share a quick, for each person, it's understanding our bodies. And so when I'm that way, I don't know, sometimes I feel like my hair is coming off my arms. Yeah, or my breath. I'm not, if my breath is short.
Mm-hmm. I feel it up here. Like I feel this kind of breathing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely.
I go into fight or flight mode. And so I know when that's coming. Yeah. And when I get into that mode, I'm like, bring it on back, girl.
And, usually for me, one of the big things that I see that is different is my husband and I need to recharge in very different ways.
Mm.
I need a retreat, right? Like I need the cave, the quiet, the no humans, the limited social information. I need to cave out, and he needs to engage.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So that's that balance of intimacy that we have to try to figure out in these long-term relationships, is how can we fill each other's cup, but also how can we give space for each other to fill our own cups.
Right. And the communication.
Woo.
Yes.
Can get sticky. I always tell people in my job, all I do is talk about the sticky stuff of life, right? There's people wouldn't come to see me if there wasn't some sticky going on. So.
Yes. So we've had you on our show, and every time a person comes on our show, they tell us about intimacy and what it means to them. Yes.
Mine is always, number one, I think I see intimacy not as a thing, but of layers of things. But I also, my one go-to is into me see. Because we all want to be seen, right? And we want to be accepted even after we're seen. So I'm always like, into me see and choose to love me anyway.
Yes.
I like that. It's that last piece, and choose to
Choose to
love
love me
me
anyway,
anyway.
despite all my wrinkles and my flaws. Because if you'll choose to love me anyway, what vulnerability that allows me to show up with in our relationship. If I know that even though you see my wrinkles and my flaws and my weaknesses, that you're still going to choose me,
Right.
then I can lean in a totally different way.
Right. Definitely. Yeah. Good. Yeah. So you're on here today and you're going to bring to us some 7 different realms.
Yes. So, I think it's always important because intimacy, like, first of all, what does that even mean?
Right.
And if all 3 of us talked, we'd have some similarities and we'd also have some individual needs in that. So intimacy is as individual as each of us are and as common as each of us are, right? So it's a both. But we learn about our intimacy. We learn how to be intimate starting in our childhood. What are the interactions between our parents, our grandparents, those adult figures in our life? Because that's where we're learning what it means to be a wife, a mother, a father, a husband, a lover. That's where we first start getting that vision. So if you come from a family where there's positive touch, there's loving engagement, there's respectful communication, there's some smooching, some patting, some hugging, then we're going to carry one vision of that. But what if we come from that family where touch is oftentimes negative, or maybe it's absent at all? Maybe we don't have good role model in our life to teach us about intimacy. Where in the world are we ever to learn that?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because what society shows us is pretty make-believe about what intimacy is. And so when we don't get that vision in our home, that really sets us up to have a lot of learning and growth to do as we're also trying to fall in love with someone or develop relationships with close people, because we have intimacy with all people, right?
And give what you don't know, or you
right. And so, I think about the wife that comes from this family that's really engaged in hugging and kissing and talks to each other, and she saw her parents resolving conflicts and sharing lots of layers of life, and then she marries into a man maybe who or her partner, whomever that may be, came from a very different family, right? Where there wasn't all of that positivity happening. And so she's coming with expectations. He's coming with expectations, but they're very different expectations. And so how do we help work through that? So I think the first place to start is thinking back to where we learned what we learned about intimacy. But then, of course, we start learning about relationships in our life, right? And that will help. That will be the next evolution as to what we want, what we need, what brings us pleasure. And then we get into sustained relationship, and that's a whole nother layer, right? Because what I needed from my husband, 32 years ago versus what I need from my husband now, need, want, desire, it's different. It's more mature. Mm-hmm. And in early relationships, because we haven't really developed these nice deep layers of intimacy, that tends to come out almost in sex and touch, right?
Yeah.
And so as we get older, it's not, people will tell you that sex isn't as important as it used to be. And that would be, to me, that would be the natural progression, because it's not that it's not still important. It's just that we have many other layers to help support our intimate connection with each other. So I think, being able to look at what stage of life I'm in, but always being able to go back to where it started, where my learning started, and what learning have I really gotten along the way, because God knows we're not going to talk about it in our society, except for brave women like you who will step into those conversations.
Right.
Where do people learn about that? women are taught that they don't have any access to their own sexuality, that the man's going to provide it for us, right? That's what we're raised, socialized message. But we never really talk about where he's supposed to learn all those great things, right? So it's kind of in that whole conundrum of life that we have made so many really important topics taboo.
Okay.
So I think about intimacy from 7 layers.
Yes. So
Like
what's the
7
first?
layer salad. You know what I'm saying? Did you ever have that?
Mm-hmm.
Did your family ever make the 7-layer salad? Whoo, I had an aunt, that's all she ever made. Every family gathering was a 7-layer salad. So I look at emotional intimacy.
Is that the first level in
That's
your?
the first level, because that's the glue that binds us, right?
Yeah. But you know what? I realized that sometimes men don't understand that. Yeah. And I was
Because
working.
where were they? Who told them?
Yeah, I was working
Right.
with a couple out in Costa Rica, and he's a great guy and everything, and he's great body. But I was like, she's wanting the emotions,
Yeah.
just like you look at her breasts and gets excited. Women get excited about emotions, guys. That is so key. That's what gets us aroused.
Yes, and women are emotional lovers. So
Yeah.
when men are complaining that they're not getting enough sex, I'm
Right.
like, so the starting place is not having made the home plate. The starting place is up to bat, right? And that starts with emotional intimacy.
Right.
So if you're not getting enough sex, then let's look at what you're doing in these other realms of intimacy to feed that, because sex is reflective of the other layers of intimacy.
Right.
So if I'm an emotional lover and you're not feeding any of my emotional needs, the odds are I'm not going to feel too sexual.
Exactly.
So it's a step it on back. Let's start back. But I do want to give voice to that. Just a sidebar thought. We really socialize our men in some hard ways.
We do.
We don't give them access to their emotions.
Right.
Like we tell them anger's okay. You can be pissed off.
And there's something always underneath anger.
But you can't, but you're not allowed to feel sadness, grief, sorrow, all these other emotions you don't get to feel, but you can feel angry. Well, of course they come off as angry. That's all they've been given permission to.
Right.
And it's kind of the same with intimacy. They've been given the social go-ahead to be sexual, right?
Right.
But to be intimate, to be tender, to be caring, they've really not been given permission to that either.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a learned experience. And that means we have to be willing to accept influence from each other.
Right.
Right. So emotional intimacy, I feel, is like the big thing, because if you don't have that, it's hard to build all the other layers of intimacy. So the foundation of your house is emotional intimacy, and that requires two-way communication and two-way listening.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It requires that we feel wholly accepted for who we are, with just in the same place we're standing, we're accepted right there. I think it really is required to have a congruence of the words we use with the actions that we take. Because there are a lot of people who do a lot of talk of what they're going to do, but there's really no action to back it up. So for me to truly trust that I can count on you, there has to be a congruence between your words and your actions.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be able to have mutual respect, even when we disagree, right? That we're not shooting bullets out our mouth of harsh words.
Right.
Because if you just shot me up with your words,
Mm-hmm.
the odds of me wanting to snuggle up with you later are going to be pretty low.
Yes.
I might snuggle up with you, but it might be not in the way you were thinking.
Right. So is all this under level 1? Is this one
All
layer?
this is under emotional to me.
Okay.
What do you think? Do you agree?
No, I definitely agree. Yes, definitely.
And I think I think there's 2 more important thoughts of emotional. I think safe haven is one of them.
Mm.
Like I hear a lot of women who say my man won't talk to me.
Okay.
But then I hear a lot of men who say when I try to talk to her, she doesn't really listen to me.
Mm.
right? So we have to be each other's safe haven. Doesn't mean we have to agree with everything that the other one is saying. Doesn't mean we have to accept it as our new truth, but it does mean that we're willing to hear it and be a safe place for that conversation to happen.
Mm-hmm.
My husband, I had to learn this, right? Because I'm a redheaded Scot Irish. And that can get me in trouble. And not that I'm proud of it, but I understand it can get me in trouble. And in the early days of our relationship, my husband and I were co-workers, and we had a great friendship and a great working relationship. But then when we transitioned into lovers, right, that's like changes everything.
Mhm.
And suddenly he's trying to learn how to talk to me in the same way he always has, but I'm listening as a wife instead of as a friend.
Right. And
So my husband, in not a disrespectful way, I just want to be clear of that, would say to me, "Hey, baby, could you put my redheaded wife in the closet and let me talk to my best friend?"
That makes sense, though.
Right? Because the wife is going to hear it different than the best friend is going to hear it.
Right.
And they're going to respond differently.
Mm-hmm.
And that helps you to become present. And I'm glad that he can communicate that. That's awesome.
Yes. So that, that was a great learning about what it meant to be a safe haven. I don't think any of us start there. I think it takes a lot of intentional practice, to be that safe haven, because sometimes in life we hear crap we don't want to hear from the other one.
Right.
Right. And I still need to hear it. Just because I don't like it doesn't mean I don't need to hear it, and I don't need to be able to respond to it, but I need to be able to choose how I respond to it in a less emotional way.
Exactly.
A lot of times you hear things that your family was too afraid to tell you, because someone who you don't know, they're looking at you like, no, that's not how life works.
What?
But your family let you kind of just get away with it.
Yes. I think the last thing of emotional intimacy is that it's never a one and done, right? This is being built in the habits of our day to day. And what do we think the number one negative detractor of emotional intimacy is in our life?
One negative.
Our busyness.
Oh, that
You're talking about that, right?
Yes.
Busyness of our life distracts us.
Mm-hmm.
And, sometimes it's easier to disappear into Facebook for 30 minutes than it is to engage with my partner. But if I only have 30 minutes, then I have to choose how it's best for me to spend it. Right. So that's that intentionality. Sometimes I do need to just have that 30-minute escape into nothing, but sometimes I also need to be willing to dial in when I need to.
Right. Exactly. Yes.
So I think it's that day to day that kind of continues to build or detract from our emotional intimacy that we share.
Right.
And so I think everyone kind of knows that one, right? I think emotional intimacy, people can kind of put that idea together.
Right.
Here's where I may get some new areas for folks. So the next thing I go to is intellectual intimacy.
That's important. Yes.
Right? This is our brains connecting, not our bodies, not our hearts. It's our brains that are connecting to each other.
Right.
And that's where we can state our opinions, right? Because we all got them. We can state our opinions. Well, the last few years have brought some struggle.
Right.
Socially and politically for couples when their opinions are very different, because it's become much more polarized. Like, if you don't agree with me, we're not friends, we're enemies, right? That's kind of the social message that we've gotten.
Right. However, we can use our curiosity mind, and try to understand each other.
Yes.
And
well, we get into this right or wrong.
Right.
Right or wrong. Well, I had to ask myself in a relationship, an important relationship in my life, was it more important for me to feel right, or was the relationship more important?
Right, exactly.
And that's what that opinion comes down to. So if we can listen to each other's opinions, there's always a way to grow. We just have to be willing to listen.
Right.
Doesn't mean we have to agree with it. It just means we respect that person enough to let them voice their opinion. Good. So I think that's a big one. And it's where we can exchange thoughts on a wide variety of topics. Like, we're not just relegated to a conversation about the bills and the kids. We have more layers to us and who we are. I also think it's about making life decisions together, right? That we make these choices together in our life. We don't do it unilaterally. As my husband and I say, we cuss and discuss it, right?
Yes,
So
definitely.
we come to a plan that feels good to both of us.
Yes. So what's the third layer?
Got to play. The next layer is going to be experiential intimacy, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we think about births and deaths and promotions and knockdowns and firings, all these different experiences that we have to navigate together. Those experiences become part of our fabric that knits us together, right? And I think we really undervalue in today's world shared recreation, right? Because we can both have very active experiential lives that have nothing to do with each other.
Right. No, I agree with you. A lot of couples.
A lot of times I'll hear, well, he likes to golf and I hate to golf.
Right.
Okay, well, what if you get to drive the cart and you are just out in the sunshine for the day, right? How can
drink
you
on the back of the cart?
Right, get on the back of the cart with a cooler, whatever, But there are ways for us. My husband loved motorcycle riding. I'm an ER nurse. I had no reason to be on the back of a motorcycle, but it meant a lot to him, and I knew it meant a lot to him. And so we negotiated ways, and we had several years of having a motorcycle and doing fun things on it. So I think we have to be willing to lean in to each other's recreation, whether it's our gig or not. We're not doing it for me. I'm doing it because I love you.
Exactly.
Right. So I can get joy from my partner's joy. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be mine directly. Yes. So then we go to spiritual, right?
Yeah.
Spiritual intimacy. A lot of our moral fiber for many folks is kind of developed within whatever their spiritual identity is.
Right.
I work with a couple. One is a very devout Catholic, and one is Jewish.
Right.
Okay. I think they've done a wonderful job of learning to navigate the commonalities instead of staying focused on the differences. They've chosen to lean into the commonalities and celebrate Hanukkah and Christmas simultaneously, that it doesn't have to be one or, it can be an and.
Right, definitely.
But spiritual intimacy is also where many of us learn about really powerful things of forgiveness, of grace, of mercy. Right. And so
it's the core kind of, and it's like your middle ground, but it's really the core in some aspects.
Yes. And so spiritual intimacy, this is serving others together, right? This is having common purpose above ourselves.
Yes.
And so spiritual intimacy can really carry people through some hard times. When they're bound that way. And it doesn't mean they have to share the same exact beliefs. They just have to be respectful of each other's beliefs. But I think that can be a really hard one to navigate when we're in different spiritual bases. It just takes extra work on our part, right?
Right.
Because it's not about one of you being right or one of you being wrong. It's about honoring both in their own story. So spiritual intimacy, I always encourage couples who are of the mindset to pray together. That's a great binding opportunity for couples when we can have that vulnerability together of prayer. So I strongly encourage couples to find that way of sharing that spiritual piece of us together. And that looks different for some people. I mean, my husband and I have sat on top of a mountain in Colorado and had a pretty spiritual experience from that together, right? So that can come in many ways for us.
Exactly. Yes. That connection is very important.
Creativity is always good there.
Good, good. So what's number 6? Oh,
Okay.
five.
Ooh, what if I
Five.
financial?
Oh, financial.
Oh, sticky, sticky.
Yes.
So what are the top issues in marriage for divorce and discord? Money,
Yep.
communication, sex.
Sex.
So money, couples fight about who spends, who makes more, who spends more, who saves more. But I don't really see that those conversations are actually about those particular topics.
Right.
I think it is about what money means to each of you as individuals.
Yeah. What's the relationship that you have with money? What did you see?
Right. What's your relationship? What's your experience been with money? Like people who grew up in a home where their needs were always met, right? And they got to go to dance and they got to go to football and they got to do all the things and they got to go on trips. When combined with maybe a person who didn't get to have any of those things,
Right.
that were struggling for food, electricity, housing, they're going to come with very different meaning of money. So I think it's really powerful for people, even in that premarital period, to understand what money means to each of us.
Right.
So here were just some words I write down about money, because I think it's really important of what's underneath the money fight: power, stability, safety, security, influence, affluence, luxury, comfort, limitations, opportunities. Right? That's what money means to us. And if we don't understand that, then we argue about it. So I always will encourage couples to get financially naked with each other, right? Like, let's just put it all out on the table and let's work through it piece by piece, because it's never a one and done conversation. It's an ongoing, routine conversation. And I talk to too many people, especially as a nurse taking care of people in odd situations of life, where women have no idea
Right.
about
Happening
what
there.
money they have, where it's at, how to access it. And then something abrupt happens to that partner and they're really left in a really hard place. My husband manages the money as far as the paying of the bills and all of that, but we have routine check-in. We call it the state of the state, right? Like, where are we at with our money? What am I doing with our money?
Yes, and I love that you put that having the routine.
Yeah,
very critical. Yes,
so my
definitely.
husband, once he pays bills every month, he'll be like, okay, you ready for the update? You ready for the state of the state?
Good.
And I'm thankful that he does it. I'm also very thankful that I have trust in him. Right? Because he's earned that. But financially naked, it's important.
Definitely. What's the next level?
Physical intimacy, not sexual. Physical. Hand holding, hug and touch and squeeze and pat and snuggling, cuddling, canoodling, whatever it is, right?
Right.
This is our basic emotional need as humans. We cannot survive without touch, right? Touch always needs to be consensual. And just because maybe we're married or just because we've been together for 15 years isn't an automatic hall pass. We all still get to choose to be physically intimate with each other.
Right.
Our skin is our greatest sensory organ of our whole body. Like, we have zones from the top of our head to the bottom of our feet. We just get a little focused on the crotch and the boobs in our society. So I'm always like, let's branch out. Let's feel all of the skin. So physical intimacy increases our good endorphins like dopamine and oxytocin and serotonin. And it helps to relax our bodies and decreases the workload of our heart and helps us feel more positive about life. And people who are starved for touch really begin to physically decline and emotionally decline. So touch is our primary conveyor. And we can have a conversation where maybe I lavish you with a lot of love, but if I bring you in a really close hug and I hold you for a moment, that's going to say all those words plus a few more.
Definitely.
Right?
So Traci, I'm dying to know, what is the top one?
Sex. Well, I think that I actually, it's the last one. Emotional intimacy is the top one, right?
Oh, okay. I'm going this way. Okay, I got
Emotional intimacy really is a result of all the other layers of intimacy.
Yeah.
Right? Like if we are intimate in these other ways, sex is usually not going to be as good. But because we share all of these ways of pleasing and serving and loving each other, sex becomes this place of wanting, of celebration, of pleasure, right? Because my other needs are met.
Wow, this has been stimulating, intriguing, and I hope people are listening. So let me make sure I got it right, because I was keeping notes. It's the emotional, intellectual activities, spiritual, finances, and physical, and spirit, and sex.
Yes.
Yes.
So sometimes you just read about sex, but I separated out physical from sexual because there are times in our life.
Right.
Sex is off the table, pregnancies or surgeries or health or whatever, but we can still maintain 6 other layers of intimacy in our life and maintain a really thriving relationship without sex. But sex is usually not so good without those other layers of intimacy.
Right. And touch has to happen besides sexual touch.
Yes.
Yeah.
If the only time you touch me is when you want to be sexual, as a woman, we tend to start to feel a little objectified by that, right? Like all I am to you is a place of sexual pleasure.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, it's like for $299, you can go buy one of those on the internet.
That's right. Yes. And I'll give you the website.
Well, Traci, talking about website, how can people find you, get and connect with you?
Well, I'm probably the easiest girl I know to find. IntimatePathways.org is my website. You can go to the website, get my phone number. I'm happy to have a conversation with anybody about whatever they want to talk about. I work with men, I work with women, I work with couples, and everything I talk about is focused on relational intimacy and sexuality. So thinking about transitional times of life, things happen in our lives where sex is not what we think it should be or what we expect it to be. And so instead of letting that hold negative place, let's give it a good voice.
Wow. Thank you so much for being on the show. As always,
you girls are awesome.
Yes.
You're awesome.
You're fun. You're fun to play with in the sandbox.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much. And we'll be back in a moment.
Thank you.
Are you wanting a vacation in paradise? Vacation to reignite the passion, the desire in your relationship? Vacation counseling is just for you. We are deeply committed to your success as a couple. Our couples counseling retreats are exclusive, effective, and intimate. At Vacation Counseling, you will benefit from a combination of couples counseling, intimacy counseling, and individual counseling while you and your partner enjoy a relaxing vacation in sunny Southwest Florida. If you are interested in vacation counseling, please visit us at vacationcounseling.com for more information on prices and packages.
Welcome back to the Bringing Intimacy Show, where intimacy is real. Wow, that was so much information. And
it was. It really was. It's like pen and paper ready. Go ahead. I enjoyed every bit of it. And it's somebody who you want to hear from, just the intimacy with the camera that she was able to give while we're intently watching translates to the folks that are watching. So it's like, it's a draw you in moment and very, very informative.
Right. And I'm glad that she was able to connect all the dots for people so they understand the importance of true intimacy in all these realms.
Oh, yes. And, one of the things that she talked about at the very beginning was, she has to do kind of a retreat thing, which both of us do retreats. And I'm glad that she said it because I don't think too many people really think about that. It's even if it's a vacation, but being able to do just a one-off retreat with your partner, picking yourselves up, getting out of your normal space and focusing on those things that you're not able to really communicate through, and especially with a third party that's outside looking in saying, hey, filter your words through my ears, hear it from my mouth, communicate with your partner.
Right, definitely. And as she's talking about, even just as you're saying that, in those retreats, many times when you're doing it with a third partner, as a therapist, they help you tap into that emotional piece. They help you also feel safe because some of her ones, she talked about safety. And then also, which is the other thing, is having fun together. That's right. Yeah.
Yes. Given that permission to be open, transparent, and honest with each other without the look, because you're going to get called out on it. I can tell you, if you come to one of my retreats, I call you out. Anybody that knows, I'm going to call you clear out.
And if you come to one of mine, we have 3 therapists. So it's even worse. You're going to be called out by one of us.
Somebody going to get you. I love it. Well, we have even more amazing shows that are coming up, and we even are going to be going into some couples here soon. So I'm really excited. I always say this, but literally the end of the month is already here. So next week on September the 29th, we have Alan Carl with What Would You Risk to Unleash Your Passion and Follow Your Dream? On October the 6th, we have DB Passion with Non-Traditional Relationships. And on October the 13th, we have Dr. Ray and Jean with Emotional Echoes and the Stages of Vulnerability. Great shows coming up for sure.
Right, definitely. And if you missed part of this show, or if you want to listen back, please do so, because Traci went through all the different pillars of emotion, of intimacy that is needed in the relationship.
Yes. So definitely catch the replay. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Clubhouse, pretty much wherever you can listen and scroll, you can find us under Bringing Intimacy Back. Make sure if you're catching the podcast, let us know how we're doing, because we want to know. If there's something you want to hear about, let us know, because we want to know. Rate us, because we want to know.
And if you have a question, let us know, because we want to know. All right. This has been the Bringing Intimacy Back show, where intimacy is real. See you all next week.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Bringing Intimacy Back, where intimacy is real. You can also find us at bringingintimacyback.com, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Dr. April Brown's 7th book series, Improving Intimacy, is now on Amazon. We'll see you next Thursday at 3:30 p.m. Don't forget to follow, share, and subscribe.